For an age out of sympathy with the ascetic spirit, and throughout all the rest of the world, the hour of anchorite may seem to have passed or to be passing. It is easy to attribute this great trend to the failing of vital energy in an ancient race tired out by its burden, its once vast share in the common advance, exhausted by its many-sided contribution to the sum of human effort and human knowledge.
So I just checked out the meaning of anchorite, and they say it's sannyasi. So basically, one who withdraws from the so-called material life. And I think I remember once Alokda talking about Sanatana Dharma and maybe this Aryan, the Dharma and the spirit. And he said that this asceticism actually spoiled that Aryan warrior spirit. It was more like a retreat rather than fight. So, so for an age out of sympathy with the ascetic spirit, and throughout all the rest of the world, the hour of the anchorite may seem to have passed or to be passing. And it is easy to attribute this trend, great trend, to the failing of vital energy. So this, because one needs a lot of vital energy, as a soldier, one passion, loyalty towards either nation or whatever. In an ancient race, tired out by its burden, its once vast share in the common advance, exhausted by its many-sided contribution to the sum of human effort and human knowledge. Okay, so feels like as if कि जैसे बीच में एक टाइम आता है सूखा पड़ जाता है ना. So maybe India has in the beginning given a lot, है ना, in general, or Aryan race as in general, the warrior spirit. But then slowly maybe जो कल भी बात कर रहे थे कि like we've given too much that it's like a time कि सूखा पड़ा हुआ है, ऐसा लग रहा है, exhausted by its many-sided contribution to the sum of human effort, human knowledge.
Yeah. It's like when we have images of, say, even sannyasis. Like once I remember interacting with some in Vrindavan, and when I interacted, I had so much, honor and so much that in my being. And yet, when I was listening to the reasons why they left home, they were something like, my mom used to just force things on me. I didn't like it. I want, there was those things. Like it wasn't that it didn't feel enough. It's just that I want. And it's just obviously there would be all kinds. But lot of times we use it as an escapism. And that's what we had seen even as, our mother says, I don't want you to leave your home. Even I remember that, this new age spiritualism, I don't know how you would call it, but even in art of living, I remember Sri very strongly saying that we don't want anybody to leave their homes because it's in the homes that these things need to be won. It's in the home where where the stimulus are there that you have to overcome these things. So out of sympathy with the ascetic, earlier on it was very, yes, honorable and stuff. And throughout all the rest of the world, it seems to be passing. And it's easy to attribute this great trend. But I'm just a bit confused here because in the above, it feels it's about the sannyasi who's leaving his home. But later on, it's about the warriors we have. It is easy to, is it I'm see. So basically, the sannyasi was the feeling of vital energy,
हाँ,
and now
exactly, exactly.
ये
Yes,
हो रहा है.
exactly, yes. So वही हो रहा है ना कि have passed or passing, it is easy to attribute. तो why are we attributing this कि Aryan, because we retreated from being facing, facing the material world, facing the existence as it is. As we retreated from that, that gave rise to more asceticism. So that's what he's sharing na. It is easy to attribute to the failing of vital energy. But again, अभी ये पूरी बात हुई नहीं है. He's going further, but he's saying that
Hmm.
it's easy to attribute कि क्योंकि we retreated back from the main Kurukshetra, so
Hmm.
gave rise to more
Hmm.
asceticism and the honor thing that you were talking of. Yeah.
Hmm. So, but we have seen that it corresponds to a truth of existence, a state of conscious realization which stands at the very summit of our possibility. In practice, also, the ascetic spirit is an indispensable element in human perfection, and even sacred affirmation cannot be avoided so long as the race has not, at the other end, liberated its intellect and its vital habits from subjection to an always insistent animalism.
तो आई थिंक वो जो आउटवर्ड मैनिफेस्टेशन एज एन एसेटिक है ना, उसको ही इज एक्चुअली लुकिंग एट द एसेंस लेवल. दैट एक्चुअली में इफ वी लुक एट द एसेंस, then we need this ascetic spirit while living in the material world. That kamal, as if kamal is there in the kichad and yet it remains there. So this जीवन मुक्ता aspect that Sri Aurobindo talks about, that अंदर है but कुछ चाहिए नहीं है यहाँ से. So that kind of, that's what he's sharing here, that it corresponds, this asceticism, to a truth of existence, a state of conscious realization which stands at the very summit of our possibility कि ये भी जीवन possible है, that you are in it completely fully, and yet you don't want anything from it. It can't give you any lasting thing. And in practice also, the ascetic spirit is an indispensable element in human perfection. Again, talking about, uh, I would say, I would again relate this with getting disenchanted, knowing that this fleeting existence cannot give me anything, but then, offering yourself completely here, being in touch with that truth within.
Because if we look at it, if we are getting, say, attracted to something, or if the triggers are there, then and if you're not getting triggered or if you're not getting pulled, that is a victory, right? Just escaping and just saying, yes, I don't want it anymore, is not a victory. It's escapism. That's, I think that's what I discovered when I was talking about my experience talking to the sadhus. So that's just, it's a process, right? Like I feel for myself when I see that at times, first, I have to remove because I cannot deal with it right now. So the first thing is that that's it. You don't have to do it. Say, like, for example, drinking coffee, right? Like, first, I have to put my feet down that, yes, no more coffee for me. And then when I feel, yes, I don't want it anymore, actually. And then anybody can have it. I can go wherever. Even if I have it, it's not addictive. Just it's a process, it seems, right? That it was probably needed. Here it's feeling as if earlier on the vital was very high, and then suddenly the backing off happened, and now from both the ends a forward balance thing can happen, right? Maybe.
Yeah, this what you were sharing, I think this comes here. That even its separate affirmation that asceticism is required, like I want to be an ascetic, its separate affirmation cannot be avoided so long as the race has not yet, the other end, liberated its intellect and vital habits from this subjection to always insistent animalism. So this wanting to consume since we live from this sense of lack, है ना, consume consume, eat sleep consume, तो वो once we are liberated from that, consumption, since we always live with this sense of lack, then uh, we can live with the ascetic spirit and yet involved in the world. What you were sharing, yes. So then my existence is not dependent on my, habits and whatever addictions I may have. Then there is no need, because then one is connected with something higher, the source, if we can say within, that one need not be animalistic. I think why are we animalistic in nature? Because also there is this, वो है ना, एक डीप हंगर इज देयर, है ना, तो वो लगता है कि उसको कैसे सेटिएट करो, तो यू कंज्यूम 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 और होता है नहीं, it doesn't work, and that's why more. And that more again, Alok also shares, and Sri Aurobindo, I think also, that more, that aspect of more that we want in our life, कि अभी चलो एक चीज़ है अच्छी, तो अभी और अच्छा चाहिए, है ना, और अच्छा, और एक्चुअली में इट इज़ अ डिस्टॉर्टेड वर्जन ऑफ आवर ओन डिविनिटी, बिकॉज डिविनिटी इज इन्फिनिट, और so it's a distorted, like a remembrance of that divinity, endless, limitless.
Yeah. We seek indeed a larger and completer affirmation. We perceive that in the Indian ascetic ideal, the great Vedantic formula, one without a second, has not been read sufficiently in the light of that other formula, equally imperative. All this is the Brahman. The passionate aspiration of man upward to the divine has not been sufficiently related to the descending movement of the divine leaning downwards to embrace eternally its manifestation. Its meaning in matter has not been so well understood as its truth in the spirit. The reality which the sannyasin seeks has been grasped in its full height, but not as by the ancient Vedantins in its full extent and comprehensiveness.
So I think this is so beautiful. So he's placing like two of them together, जैसे वन विदाउट अ सेकेंड, जब हम अद्वैत की बात करते हैं ना, कि वो एक और उसके सामने कुछ दूसरा नहीं है, सो देर इज़ नो सेकेंड फॉर हिम. और इसमें नेति नेति वाली भी आई थिंक बात आती है कि हर चीज़ की नेति, सो दैट वन रीचेज दैट नॉन डुअलिस्टिक realization. Niti, niti, this, I am not this, I am not this. So you're just negating. So I think he's beautifully placing one without a second with, he's not been read sufficiently in the light of other formula. All this is Brahman. तो उसमें फिर जब आप जिसकी नेति कर रहे हो, what about that? That is also Brahman. तो अब इसमें आप छोड़ नहीं पाओगे, है ना, कि यू विल नाउ हैव टू डिग that, okay, let me find that how is this Brahman, or whatever, I'm just exploring like that.
So here one without a second is corresponding to neti neti.
To advait, non duality, ये वेदांतिक फॉर्मूला जो कह रहे हैं ना,
Okay.
अद्वैत.
Yeah.
तो नेति
Yeah.
नेति तो is coming from advaitic tradition, so that's
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
used it.
Yeah. 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 Advait, one without the
तो
second.
उसमें क्या हो रहा है कि जब मैं नेति करूँ कि बस एक वो ही ट्रू है और कुछ ट्रू नहीं है, क्योंकि उसका तो कोई दूसरा है ही नहीं, तो उसमें अमेजिंग कि मतलब कितने ब्लाइंड हो सकते हैं वैसे, है ना। आप जैसे श्योर बिंदु अभी इसके सामने रख रहे हैं, ऑल दिस इज ब्राह्मण, मतलब इट्स अमेजिंग कि नोबडी एवर थॉट अबाउट दिस, कि हम ये कर क्या रहे हैं ना, मतलब ही इज नाउ सिंथेसाइजिंग एवरीथिंग। तो ऐसा लगता है ना कि हाउ ब्लाइंड वन कैन बी, दैट आप नेति कर रहे हो, नेति कर रहे हो, और कांट यू अगेन उपनिषद में यही तो बोला है, ऑल दिस इज ब्राह्मण, तो उसके साथ क्यों नहीं प्लेस किया इसको पैरेलली? बट देन इट बिगिंस टू मेक सेंस व्हेन ही सेज ऑल दिस इज ब्राह्मण। सो अब हाँ माना वो सही है, लेकिन वो जो है वो हर चीज में भी तो है ना, मतलब सिंस ऑल द मैनिफेस्टेशन इज दैट ओनली, देर इज नथिंग बट दैट, देर इज नथिंग बट डिवाइन। सो देन मैनिफेस्टेशन कैन नॉट बी अदर देन डिवाइन, क्योंकि उसका तो कोई दूसरा है ही नहीं। So how would I be able to negate the manifestation then?
I think this is mentioned in the principles as well. It's not new, like this thing. And it's, I think, again, it's about the process, right? Like how different stages. Like, first, you're so attached, so clung on, so grasping it so fervently that the neti neti is important. Ki, no, 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 not true, not true, not
Hmm.
true. And then when your center shifts,
Hmm.
then it's like everything is you,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Like it's, yeah.
नहीं तो मैं वही सोच रही हूँ कि जैसे अभी तो
Mm,
जैसे वी आर लुकिंग एट एन इंडिविजुअल लेवल, है ना, कि
yeah,
पहले मेरे लिए
yeah,
नेगेशन ज़रूरी है, देन मेरे
yeah,
लिए
yeah.
एक्सेप्टेंस ज़रूरी है, ठीक है। बट आई एम जस्ट वंडरिंग अबाउट द ग्लोबल लेवल, दैट is it true, I'm just wondering, I don't know, is it true that before Sri Aurobindo nobody placed it together, like he's putting it together कि जैसे synthesis हो रहा है ना।
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
लेकिन वही हो सकता है जैसे आप कह रहे हो कि मे बी दैट कलेक्टिव कॉन्शियसनेस नीडेड दैट डिनायल,
yeah,
है ना।
yeah, 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 beautiful. I think that is why even the faith, when we talk about faith or surrender or offering, somehow it feels one-sided, right? When we till we are not fully into it, we because we are not seeing the complete picture. You know how, I don't know, there was this symbol now that how when you do one, ऊपर से three कुछ, it's a inverted triangle, right? Like there is some symbol, I don't know what it was.
एक्चुअली श्री अरबिंदो का जो सिंबल है वो भी यही मैनिफेस्ट करता है, मतलब बताता है जो
Mm,
वो है ना, लोटस बीच में बना हुआ है, डिसेंडिंग ट्रायंगल, असेंडिंग ट्रायंगल। So
yeah,
that's the call from from the matter, and then the response from the divine,
yeah,
ascending and descending triangle.
descending, yeah. So we know about the truth in the spirit that we could see because है ना, इससे पहले वाले paragraph में it was there, right? That is something that the mind can now comprehend, but yet its meaning in matter has not been so well understood. When mother talks about, changing it into this, bringing it into the cells of the body, I think थोड़ा उससे भी वो हो रहा है ना, कि that is where the working needs to happen.
I'll share something on this maybe later once we finish this paragraph. I got
Okay.
something.
So the reality which the sannyasin seeks has been grasped in its full height but not as by the ancient Vedantins in its full extent and comprehensiveness. But in our completer affirmation, we must not minimize the part of the pure spiritual impulse. As we have seen how greatly materialism has served the ends of the divine, so we must acknowledge the still greater service rendered by asceticism to life. We shall preserve the truths of material science and its real utilities in the final harmony, even if many or even if all of its existing forms have to be broken or left aside. An even greater scruple of right preservation must guide us in our dealing with the legacy, however actually diminished or depreciated, of the Aryan past.
तो ये बड़ी अच्छी है ना, ये मतलब बड़ी गुडविल वाली बात लग रही है ना, जैसे यू आर नॉट डेरोगेटिंग एनीथिंग, है ना, डेरोगेटरी वे में नहीं, मतलब किसने क्या किया है फैक्चुअली, वेरी फैक्चुअली, इसने ये किया उसने वो किया, है ना, एसेटिज्म ने इस तरह से डायरेक्ट किया, आर्यन का ये था ना, है ना, नाउ ही सेइंग दैट ना उसको मिनिमाइज कर सकते हैं ना उसको, है ना, वो कर सकते हैं. What he is saying here that in our completer affirmation we must not minimize the part of the pure spiritual impulse, just like we cannot say that materialism has not helped to serve the divine. How amazing. What mother says, na, everything has a proper place. There is nothing wrong in this universe. That's what she shares. It's just that things are not at their proper place. So everything has a proper place, why it is there. ये थोड़ा पढ़ना चाहिए इसके बारे में ना, मतलब है ना, आर्यन
Mm.
पास्ट. I think maybe also again just wondering about it. I don't know anything about much about history. जैसे Chhatrapati, Shivaji, you know, all these warriors that formed India, and not only India, I would say, जैसे उसमें ग्रीस वाली उसमें भी देखो civilization है ना, warrior spirit that is there, either towards knowledge or like in the battlefield. We see that this वही जो vital energies की बात कर रहे थे ना. This is also very interesting. We shall preserve the truths of material science and its real utilities in the final harmony, even if, look at this, even if many or even if all of its existing forms have to be broken or left aside. So, not in any particular image that we have to preserve it in final harmony, but the essence of material science needs to be preserved. It has its contribution.
Yeah. And a very existing word, right? कि how we perceive it right now.
Right now.
That can also be, that's not the best. That's not what will, so anything could be, right?
Hmm.
Like the whole thing that the legacy, right? Must guide us in dealing with the legacy, however, actually diminished or depreciated. It will guide us. Yeah.
तो वही लग रहा है जैसे मतलब जो भी गया हुआ है पास्ट में, वट एवर वी बीन थ्रू, वट एवर स्टेजेस वी हैव गॉन थ्रू, इट्स लाइक फ्रॉम ईच वन वी हैव टू टेक समथिंग, है ना, दिस रिचनेस, so that we can move forward.
Hmm.
आई थिंक ये इसको मैं उससे भी कनेक्ट कर पा रही हूँ, जैसे हितेश ऑल्सो टॉक्स अबाउट दिस, when we talk about ancestors and connecting with the ancestors and family constellation and all that, earlier I would not be able to much make sense of it, earlier, but I feel that it made me like come back on ground, क्योंकि somehow ना मतलब इतना कुछ हमको ग्रांटेड मिला हुआ है ना, उसको दिखता नहीं है वो, तो यू फील कि अरे वाई टू बाउ डाउन टू अवर एंसेस्टर्स, मतलब ऐसा क्या हो गया खास, है ना, बट वी डोंट नो what आर वी कैरिंग फ्रॉम देम, है ना, what इज फॉर्मिंग अस, what इज शेपिंग अस. सो इन हिज कॉन्स्टलेशंस ऑल्सो, है ना, जैसे वो फैमिली जो भी आपके पीछे जा चुके हैं, so he like giving each one its proper place in whatever, चाहे वो बंदा मरा हुआ है, नहीं है जिंदा, कोई बात नहीं, बट ही इज देयर, हिज प्रेजेंस वाज देयर, हिज स्पिरिट वाज देयर. सो या, और उसमें एक एक्चुअली में यू फील लाइक अ होलनेस, लाइक यू हैव एम्ब्रेस्ड ईच पार्ट ऑफ, बिकॉज ईच पार्ट इज शेपिंग मी, आई मे नॉट नो इट. So just like that, each part of history is shaping us. We are ignorant about it, how it has shaped me, how I have been, I don't know, taking it for granted, maybe.
I think this taking things for granted or entitlement is coming up again and again. That how that's a
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. आई थिंक इसमें थोड़ा सा पार्ट वो भी है ना कि जैसे आई एम जस्ट इग्नोरेंट अबाउट इट, है ना, नेवर फेल्ट क्यूरियस अबाउट इट, वट एवर, है ना, वट एवर आई एम टेकिंग फॉर ग्राउंडेड नाउ, इट कुड बी ग्लोबली, इन फैमिली और इन माई लाइफ, कभी क्वेश्चन नहीं किया, है ना, वही वो जो ब्लाइंडनेस होती है अपने लिए ना, वो आई थिंक जब तक वो पॉइंट आउट नहीं होता, उसकी तरफ कोई पॉइंट नहीं करता, तो वो दिखता ही नहीं है. तो फील अच्छा ये तो हुई, ये तो मैं हुई, तो वो ब्लाइंडनेस की वजह से भी कभी मौका ही नहीं लगता, जब तक कोई ऐसी सिचुएशन नहीं मर्ज हो जाए कि अब तो मुझे देखना ही पड़ेगा, है ना, मजबूरी ऑलमोस्ट. सो आई वॉज, ये जो अभी हमने पढ़ा ना, एक मिनट पहले में, हाँ, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऑफ मैटर की जो बात कर रहे थे ना, जस्ट केम इन बिटवीन कि वो मैटर में उसका रियलाइजेशन हैज नॉट बीन स्टडीड. सो आई थॉट इट वुड बी नाइस टू जस्ट गो थ्रू दिस. ये वही है जो नाम जप वाला मैंने आपको शेयर किया था ना, रामकृष्ण दास बाबा जी, उड़िया बाबा जी. सो आई जस्ट फाउंड हिम हियर ऑल्सो ऑन औरोमा's वेबसाइट. यहाँ पे काफ़ी अच्छा इनका रिकलेक्शन दिया हुआ है. somebody had shared their recollection of बाबा जी. सो हियर देखो यहाँ पे फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में, सो वेर एवर शी सैट, दिस पर्सन, शी और ही, हाँ, दक्षिणा, that room was vibrant with peace and sweetness and Babaji's constant invocation of mother's presence. So this is where he was so special, that constantly invoking the mother all the time. And then she shares that she could only understand English, but the dialogue was taking place either in Odia or Hindi. But that didn't disturb her much. See here, sometimes Hindi and most rarely a few words in English, but understanding with the mind seemed not at all what I was there for.
this is a very common theme, right? Like when there are like with like how language is not a barrier.
देखो ये भी बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है ये वाला. In the company of disciple of Mother Sri Aurobindo, we emanated their presence and spiritual radiance of a realized great soul. At the same time, Babaji did not let me turn to him. How important is this? Babaji did not let me turn to him as a spiritual teacher, but made it firmly clear that my devotion should be offered directly to Sri Aurobindo and Mother. How amazing! I mean, I think this is one mark that the realization is, है ना, really, that you are not letting anyone stuck at your, क्योंकि चाहे कितना भी कर लें, we are personalities, है ना, we we do get stuck in our own levels. Not allowing any attachment in me for him in that type of capacity to develop. Beautiful.
I think we see the same in Getsunmala, right? Like when
Hmm.
to guide meditations or lead anything, how quickly she steps back. That no, I don't want to go that route, right? Because I think again that could be a slippery slope too, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
एक
and
मेरे
of
को
course,
उन्हीं की याद आ रही थी जब अभी ये पढ़ रहे थे ना. She does that. It's very obvious in her that she has her own sadhana going on, and that, you know, look up to Buddha and Bodhisattvas and the great masters. But yeah, and that somehow really, you know, since you said it's a slippery slope, and it is, क्योंकि हम इतने ज़्यादा स्टिकी होते हैं कि बस हमको एक चिपकने के लिए जगह चाहिए, है ना, वो चाहे किसी को भी चिपक जाओ. आई थिंक द बेस्ट इज कि अब चिपकना ही है तो डिवाइन को चिपको, है ना, तो इंटरमीडिएट लेवल पे कहीं नहीं चिपकने की जरूरत. दैट्स रियली ब्यूटीफुल.
yeah, pause करना please one
एक
minute.
मिनट.
This invocation that is being stressed on here, and I think it reminds me also of what Anand Reddy, Dr. Anand Reddy had shared in his talk in Gnostic Center. Like what we need to do has been made so simple,
या
right? Like this is so simple to
सो
believe
सिंपल.
or yeah, and we
बिल्कुल.
do that when we feel the need is there,
हाँ.
right? Like,
हाँ.
and so in doing that, we are admitting that we don't need them every second.
हाँ.
We don't need them.
हाँ.
And this is what they're doing different, right? Like he's saying that I need her every minute. I have to
हाँ.
constantly remind and invoke
हाँ.
that here she is, she's helping, she's here, she's here.
Yeah.
But I, being who I am, I just need her on special
हाँ.
occasions. And कितना रिफ्लेक्टिव एंड
एब्सोल्युटली.
वो है यहाँ पे.
And also I was sharing it with this some other person also, Naam Jap, and you know, that it is so simple. You don't need any degree. You can be illiterate. You don't need to have any education. आपने क्या करना है? आपने भक्ति भाव and माँ, वही जो कह रहे हो आप, इससे सिंपल क्या हो सकता है मतलब. But still we have complicated ourselves so much we have complicated, that the mind has so many doubts, and it questions that no, it cannot, you know, do anything. And in that we leave the practice, because, you know, again, many of us who are associated, matlab, I feel that we keep on talking in sessions and everything can happen, but actually we don't change the discipline in the mind. तो हमको लगता है कि यार अच्छा, मेरी सफरिंग पिछले 8 महीने से कॉन्टिन्यूइंग है, ऊपर नीचे हो रही है. बट एक्चुअली इफ यू लुक एट द डे हाउ इट इज स्प्रेड आउट ना, you will see that there is no discipline integrated, like this simple discipline of okay chanting माँ. मेरे को अभी भी अपनी थॉट्स इतनी प्यारी हैं, इतना विश्वास, एज यू वर सेइंग, कि सिर्फ स्पेशल ओकेजन्स ही हैं जिसमें मुझे, यू नो, इंटेंस नीड फील होती है. अदरवाइज, यू नो, मेरा माँ के बिना काम चल रहा है, तो क्यों डिस्टर्ब करें माँ को. It's really
No, I
crazy.
think if I start admitting this also, na, sincerely, there is a possibility of some shift happening. I don't even admit to this. Like when you're saying this, something in me is not agreeing. It's feeling the pain that no, no, don't say like this.
Admit
But
what?
my that I just need her on special occasions. I don't. So I think this honesty of acceptance, or maybe reminding oneself that yes, see, if you this is what you feel, can also maybe help in breaking that, because somehow it goes into the subconscious, right? It goes into the background. We forget that we are forgetting. So just a reminder that okay, you like to forget.
Yeah.
More actively reminding that I like to forget or I forget can also help with the remembering.
तो मुझे लगता है कि अब जैसे हम कभी रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं करते ना कि अच्छा चलो मैं
Mm,
जब माँ कह रही हूँ तो व्हाट डज इट मीन, एंड आई थिंक
mm,
दैट कैन ऑल्सो ब्रिंग मी टू द रियलाइजेशन दैट देर इज नथिंग
mm,
बट ग्रेस. अब
mm, mm,
I am using my intellect, I am using all the, you know, animated stuff that is given to me.
mm,
Isn't that the same Shakti that I am remembering as Ma? तो
mm,
मतलब
mm,
how
mm,
am I not with Ma at
mm,
any moment of
mm,
time?
mm, mm, mm.
तो अगर ये भी हल्का छोटा सा मेंटल रिफ्लेक्शन ही है और तो क्या है ना, इसमें भी आई फील दैट इट ब्रिंग्स मी बैक टू रिमेम्बरेंस, that okay, what is there if not this conscious animating presence which is, you know, rocking the universe, and not in me but everywhere, everywhere it is animating everything. And that's where there is also this oneness that one can feel, okay, in you also, in me also, what is that that is in function.
I think again, that's one of the most simplest set. So as to say, I mean, one can say that Kabir Doha, that Sukh mein Simran sab kare, Dukh mein kare, sorry, Dukh mein sab kare, Sukh mein kare na koi. As in, if I'm always ever grateful
Hmm.
or acknowledging this, what you were sharing, then I would not need these reminders of falls and diseases, right? Because the purpose of those reminders is, hey, oh, you've forgotten. And it's
Absolutely.
such a simple thing, but we don't get that, right? It's
Yeah.
just कि हाँ हाँ नाम जपो या ये कर लो.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if it's
Yeah.
Mm. And yet diseases probably have more into them than just this, because even really realized masters and all, right, have had big things. So I guess there's certain things one can't see, but
Hmm.
yeah.
I think they also say na it's like melting down of the previous karma. So just without
Mm.
saying anything, you just bear whatever is given to you. That also is one aspect. बट देन अगेन एवरी एस्पेक्ट इज डिफरेंट, क्योंकि अब जैसे मदर श्योरबिंदु के केस में देखें, सो श्योरबिंदु वॉज वर्किंग हेविली ऑन, यू नो, getting the supramental realization, mother on the physical transformation, and yet Shorobindo had you know, bodily troubles. So अब वही है कि कौन, वही जो आप कह रहे हो कि इट्स सो कॉम्प्लिकेटेड ना, क्या चीज़ क्या कह रही है, बट इन जनरल फॉर, आई थिंक फॉर अस ऑर्डिनरी बींग्स एट दिस लेवल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस, द ऑर्डिनरी लेवल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस जिसमें हम भटके हुए रहते हैं, एटलीस्ट यहाँ पे काफ़ी हद तक ये कहा जा सकता है कि मोस्ट ऑफ द डिजीजेज actually are coming as reminders to wake me up from my unconscious sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
तो काफ़ी हद तक it can be held true.
Mm.
अब जैसे ये है मतलब, you know, एयर some super mind
Mm.
and earth's atmosphere है ना. So
Mm.
अब I was again talking to someone, and he was sharing about that he was a self-made person, and the moment he said that I was a self, you know, I am a self-made person, again, I mean, of course I could not say it because the story was something taking into different direction, but we have no idea what all is working in which way to make us who we are today. Who is praying where for us? Who is making what realization possible? No idea. So I think this arrogance and this thing that we have कि मैंने किया है ना, वो अगर भाव थोड़ा हल्का सा लूज हो सके, चलो कम नहीं हो तो लूज तो हो जाए हल्का सा, that I don't know actually. I don't know who is helping me, but I know that I'm being helped. That can be really grounding. Yeah. So वही वो जो physical transformation की बात है ना, mother shared that I think she shared in agenda that Sri Aurobindo never gave a mantra to do usually because uh, when he was there, then we were not working on this which we are working right now, physical transformation. But since she started working on it later, she said कि without this, consider it impossible, the physical transformation. Yeah. So I found it very inspirational.
Yeah. Very simply put.
Simply put, exactly.
Yeah.
I think वो जो पूरी इनकी बुक है नाम जप वाली,
Mm.
it's such a simple language, simple understanding, so profound. मतलब अब अगर हम ये भी ना करें तो फिर तो ऐसा लगता है कि लानत लानत है हम पे, क्योंकि हाथ में कोई चाबी पकड़ा रहा है और तब भी इफ आई फाइंड एक्सक्यूजेस विच वी विल डू फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम, आई थिंक दैट्स द ब्रिलियंस ऑफ अवर इग्नोरेंस. हाथ में चाबी है बट अभी नहीं खोलेंगे जी, अभी टाइम नहीं है, बहुत चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट है. एक प्यूरिफाइंग इफेक्ट तो फील होता है इसका, जैसे चाहे आप कितनी भी कैपेसिटी में यू डू आइदर माँ और एनीथिंग, you feel because then you are not in the keychain of thoughts, and God knows what is happening at the physical level, but you feel even at this whatever you can sense, it's like a purifying process going on. And then then the next time even when you go in the keychain of thoughts, actually you feel एक कुछ गलत हो रहा है, ऑलमोस्ट लाइक दैट काइंड ऑफ एन अनीज, क्योंकि वो आदत धीरे धीरे छूट जाती है ना उसकी, है ना. तो मदर जो अनीज की बात करती है कि वन शुड बी वेरी सेंसिटिव टू द अनीज once you begin to live with the psychic, since kids are also mostly the psychic in front, so it's good to sensitize them towards what is feeling uneasy, and that which is feeling uneasy one must not follow. But वही है, having said that, even from our stumblings world is perfected. So and today we were also talking about ये जैसे आने जाने वाला टाइम होता है ना, इन अ कार यू आर ड्राइविंग, आई थिंक सच अ गुड यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ टाइम, ये जो एम्प्टी टाइम सो कॉल्ड कह सकते हैं इसको. सो अभी आगे का नया वाला ले कि
Is it done?
नहीं, हाँ ये मैं आई जस्ट पुट इट ऑन. So this one is done, the part that
Okay.
we were reading. We have to
Yeah.
start from here now.
Okay, I think next time, and I think about basic Buddhism and the Aryan spirit. Let's read up a little bit to understand the one that we did better, and next time we can
आई
start
थिंक मुझे
from
लगता है हो सकता है आलोकदा ने भी कुछ काफ़ी बार
Mm,
देते हैं ना स्पेसिफिक इश्यूज पे टॉक.
yeah,
मे बी हैज टॉक्ड अबाउट द आर्यन पास्ट.
yeah.